Welcome to the Know. I'm Ashley Jenkins.
And I'm Gus Sorola.
Our move over Mass Effect and Dragon Age. There is another, yes, thank you, BioWare game that may be in the works that's got us really excited. Not just because we want to see what crazy things they do with human faces next, but also because I kind of want to see what was so important that they had to give it to Edmonton and have Montreal work on Mass Effect instead.
According to new rumors, we may be looking at a reboot of the franchise that helped put the studio on the map, Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay, that would do it. This rumor also sort of matches previous reports about a new entry in the Knights of the Old Republic series, so hey, there could actually be some to it. But we'll come back to that old rumor in a moment because this one actually ties in fairly close with it.
The newest rumor about Knights of the Old Republic comes from Liam Robertson, YouTube gaming historian who worked with Unseen64 and Did You Know Gaming. Robertson's got a number of industry contacts and has helped break some big Nintendo stories in the past, as well as the recent story about what went wrong with Mass Effect Andromeda, citing several sources from within BioWare.
And now he's got even more juicy tidbits about the studio. In a new episode of his Patreon-only podcast, Robertson says that EA's BioWare Austin is currently working on a Knights of the Old Republic reboot, so this has nothing to do with Edmonton.
But it's much, much closer. Do you want to stage a heist?
Let's stage a heist.
On the podcast, Robertson said, "I've learned now that BioWare Austin is pretty much now exclusively working on Star Wars games, and they're going to be doing that for the indefinite future. What they're currently working on right now, and I have this on good authority, is a sort of remake/revival of Knights of the Old Republic. I don't know when this is set to come out, but it has been in development for a little while now."
Well, it's got to come out by 2020 because that's how long EA's got the license, right? So we've got a window sometime soon. So if this is all to be believed, though, we're not talking about a remake or a remaster, but a full-on reboot of the series. And if that's true, it wouldn't be a huge surprise for it to come out of BioWare Austin. They are the ones who made the Old Republic MMO.
True. But the idea of them working on a reboot of the proper OG KOTOR series is a little more interesting. As for whether or not this rumor has any truth to it, it does kind of match rumors that have been drip-fed to us for the last couple of years.
Yeah, since 2015, Cinelinx's Jordan Mason has reported a few times that 3 separate sources from Electronic Arts confirmed to him that Knights of the Old Republic is coming back. Only based on his report, the new game was going to be a next-generation remake of the original KOTOR.
The last time he updated on the remake last fall, he said that it was in stasis for a variety of reasons. One of those was the launch of Battlefront 1, which his sources said EA was not happy with. While the game sold in the neighborhood of 14 million copies, the publisher was not thrilled with this low engagement in the following months.
The second factor Mason claimed was affecting KOTOR was a battle over console exclusivity. Both Microsoft and Sony were apparently bidding to get the KOTOR remake as an exclusive for their respective consoles, with Microsoft pushing the hardest. That's not too surprising, seeing as how KOTOR was one of the original Xbox's first big exclusives and helped give the console some legitimacy. I'm sure they would very much like to have that for the Xbox One again.
I'm sure they would. But of course, what Robertson is reporting here is a bit different than what Mason was talking about then, as Mason's report concerned a remake of KOTOR and Robertson's concerns a full-on reboot of the series. Per Robertson, the two projects are actually one and the same. Apparently the project started as a remake, but then transitioned into something new altogether.
Now, Robertson went on to say in his podcast, "I don't really know how that game will end up. I've heard that it isn't exactly a remake anymore, but it started as a remake/revival. Now it's kind of going from that blueprint in sort of its own original thing. I guess we'll see what that turns out to be, but they are prototyping it right now."
In addition to Robertson's report, there is just a tiny bit more evidence that something KOTOR related is in the works at BioWare. Recently, one fan asked KOTOR lead writer Drew Karpyshyn on Twitter if he was currently working on a new game. Karpyshyn replied, "Yes, but that's all I can say. Hell, I might already have said too much." Dun dun dun!
Timing-wise, the idea of a reboot of KOTOR versus a remake definitely makes a lot of sense, especially now that Disney has the reins of the Star Wars universe. Once that transition happened and Disney wiped the old expanded universe off the star map, the KOTOR games became part of Legends, which is the name of all the pre-Disney stuff that took place outside the movies, and really built out the universe, and they said, nah, that's not canon anymore. So really, they couldn't just do a remake of something that's not canon anymore if they wanted any legitimacy, but new stuff.
They could remake it and just say, fuck you, this isn't part of canon.
Right, but that's unlikely to happen under the license with Disney. They probably are required to make stuff that can be considered canon now.
Interesting. That might be fueling part of what led to the transition from the remake of KOTOR into something brand new altogether. You can bet that Disney probably doesn't want big properties like this releasing and causing confusion about what's part of the universe and what isn't. They officially tied a bow on the Legends universe back in 2013 with the final novel, Crucible.
Now, according to some of Robertson's comments, the idea that a KOTOR reboot could exist to complement the new Star Wars universe is definitely a factor. Look, later in the podcast, Robertson said, I think this is sort of like wiping the slate clean. I think this is going to embrace the new Star Wars universe lore because Knights of the Old Republic was sort of just pushed into the expanded universe, the Legends canon of Star Wars.
Well, everything was pushed into the Legends universe.
Right, so they didn't have a whole lot of choice about being bumped off into Legends.
Were you a movie? Nope, get out. It seems unlikely that we'll be seeing or hearing anything more about whatever this new KOTOR game is anytime soon. Star Wars Celebration is this weekend, but most of the hoopla for that event will be around Star Wars Episode 8 and Battlefront 2, both of which are supposedly being revealed with trailers this weekend.
Right, not to mention all the other Star Wars stuff like Han Solo, maybe. That'd be cool. Now, it is possible we could hear a brief mention of KOTOR at E3 in June, but considering this game is apparently in the prototype phase, according to Robertson that is, it also doesn't seem too likely that we'll be getting more about it at that point either, unless they pull a Mass Effect and announce it like 4 times.
What would be really interesting is if either Sony or Microsoft did eventually secure console exclusivity, and we somehow got a surprise announcement at, Microsoft's conference, since they're hurting for some big name exclusives at the moment.
Yeah, regardless, we'll keep you posted if we hear any more news about BioWare Austin's KOTOR reboot or remake or refresh or reimagining or whatever it ends up being. What do you guys think of the possibility of more KOTOR-style games? Let us know in the comments.
And for future updates on all things related to Star Wars, remember to like this video and subscribe to The Know. You wore Revan the whole time. The last time you updated on the remake, recently one fan asked KOTOR lead writer Drew, what? Karpyshyn.
Bumper jumper, really, Gus?
No, God, no. I never did bumper jumper. I'm not animal.
Usually play.